Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. I see that people are trickling in, so I'll just give it a minute and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience. All right, I can see people are still trickling in, but to be respectful of everyone's time, I'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for choosing to spend this next hour with us. Welcome to this new product introduction webinar. I'm very thrilled to introduce, I guess, what I'll call the newest member of the MX2300 product family, the MX2308. My name is Mamadou, and I have the privilege of leading the HOBO product management team, now part of LI-COR, and I've been with HOBO for a little bit more than 12 years now. Products that I support are essentially the connected product, MX and RX products serving environmental research and ag in general. So, all right, before getting started here, just a few webinar logistics. My content probably will not take more than 45 minutes, and we'll make sure to save plenty of time to answer questions to the best of my ability. And I'll be monitoring questions and may hold on some of them until I get to those sections. So please do not hesitate to enter your questions as I'm going through the content. As always, the webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent in the follow-up email. So for those new to us, we are the home of HOBO Data Loggers, now part of LI-COR. So together we've been around for now, I believe about 50 years. The brand HOBO, is very much known as being the go-to solution for data logging across various applications: water, environmental, ag, and indoor climate market. So again, super excited to have you here and looking forward to sharing more. I wanted to share a little bit more about our parent company, LI-COR Environmental, for those who are very familiar with HOBO but may not know a lot about LI-COR. So in early 2024, we became a part of LI-COR and now formed the LI-COR Environmental family. So LI-COR is very much the global leader in greenhouse gas measurement. So together, we are bringing these two brands, bringing these two strengths as a key to understanding and managing climate change and food security in general. So it's been a great partnership, and the product we'll be talking through today is a great example of this partnership. So quick agenda here. I would like to, so this is, like I said, this is a new member of the MX2300 family. So that's actually the 8th different variant of the product family. So I just wanted to give a quick overview of all the versions. So for folks who may not be familiar with the entire product line, then to set context, I'll speak to applications and use cases that we are working through, and then jump into the product itself and why it matters. And also I'll open up HOBO Connect and do a quick demo. All right, so the MX2300 family, for folks who are very familiar with it, I mean, it is used in a large variety of applications, anywhere from environmental research to crop management. What it really does, it delivers a low-cost, accurate monitoring solution to help our users improve crop yield and quality. Using a lot of application, monitoring harmful runoff, trying to better understand the impact of climate change, enhancing irrigation, just a lot of application. So I think it was about 2016, 2017 that we came out with the Temp RH family. And in 2022, I believe that's when we came out with the soil moisture variants. And the soil moisture variant, give you choice of soil calibration, anything from mineral type soil to soilless media. It also allows for the use of apparent dielectric permittivity. So, and that's generally used in specialized soil moisture equation, such as the top equation. And we also can provide percent of field capacity with these loggers. So very versatile, again, using quite a bit of applications. Just a super high level overview of the specs, across the temperature, relative humidity, and soil moisture offering. So the soil moisture, the temperature sensor is about 0.2 degrees C accurate from 0 to 70 C. The RH sensor is 2.5%, plus minus 2.5%, typical for most of the range from 10 to 90%. And the soil moisture that use the Terrastem, in typical mineral soil, you get about a 3% accuracy. In some soilless media, you get about 5% accuracy. But again, really a small, compact device that's very versatile and that is used in quite a bit of application. And now, again, adding to this family, we've designed the MX2308. Again, leveraging this partnership with LI-COR, integrating LI-COR's quantum sensor, which is truly the industry standard when it comes to light sensing. And by integrating it, we were able to come up with a cost-effective logger that's being used to get research-grade data comparable to lab equipment, but at the fraction of the cost. So we've combined the simplicity and affordability of HOBO product and added the accuracy and the precision that LI-COR provide with this light sensor. So it's a temp RH and PAR data logger, but we actually offer more parameters than that. So I'm referring to it as a 7-in-1 data logger, because in addition to temp RH, you get daily light integral, and then we also provide accumulated PAR, which I'll touch on a little bit more. And we've also added VPD, which has been always a request from our users, and dew point that we provide with all of our temperature and relative humidity products. So this product, again, just to give you some thoughts on the type of application and use cases, it is designed for both commercial and research use. Like all the HOBO product, it is versatile and provides a lot of flexibility. Just to give an example of the type of users, anywhere from commercial growers managing greenhouse facilities who may have the challenge of maintaining optimal light levels, for example, or to maintain the climate uniformly across a large space, and sometimes need to either adjust shading or lighting to maximize yield. So many operators in those situations struggle with manual checking light or use pretty expensive stationary system. So by having this data logger and being able to track the light level at the canopy, the light intensity at the canopy level can really have a great impact. And you have vertical farmers there where, again, they're just trying to ensure that light intensity and distribution from LEDs meet the plant needs at different shelf level. Again, even if you have a high-end automated system, it can be very hard to get a sense, are you getting the right light intensity at every shelf level? And then, skipping here, and you also have researchers, right, which is core to what we do. You have the research institution, agricultural universities, plant science researchers, and ecology field researchers who all require accurate PAR and climate data. And you have so many firms as well that are developing agricultural technology option. But again, in this day and age of AI and ML, to create these models, really these tech companies, they really need good data so that they can create these accurate models, right? As the saying go, garbage in, garbage out. So getting quality data is very critical to being able to create these models. And then, so again, by coming up with this solution, it will be enabling those ag tech companies as well in the great work that they do. So the value proposition here, again, we are really combining LI-COR's reputation and credibility when it comes to light sensing and marrying that with HOBO, which is known for ease of use. So I like to say it's affordable enough to allow you to scale. I'll touch on the price point in a second to give you a sense, but then very accurate for science and research. So it's a great combo, and we've made it easy to use as always. So some key features at a glance. So again, the part number is 2308 for folks who are used to get their product from our website. You can find it directly on our website. Price point is $595. Again, integrating the LI-190R from LI-COR on a cable, and also comes with temperature and relative humidity. So folks who are familiar with the 2308A is essentially the same spec. We carry that forward. IP67 rated for harsh environment, and a pretty long battery life. So typically you'll get at least 2 years. And in situations where you may not be on site, where you maybe need to come check in every now and then, if you disable Bluetooth, because in general the fact that it's broadcasting data all the time is actually what uses most of the power. So in scenarios where you have access to it, and then you can, let's say you just want to get your data once a week, you can just come and press the button that will wake up the Bluetooth, and then you'll get your data. So we have the option of disabling that Bluetooth, and once you do that, it'll last you at least 5 years. And we've already touched on it again, and it does come with 4 derived parameters: accumulated power, DLI, BPD, and dew point. One component I wanted to highlight, definitely recommend when you get this data logger to also get the associated mounting and leveling fixture. Again, pretty critical, just to make sure that you have your light sensor oriented the right way. I mean, the sensor does have a great cosine response, but again, depending on your application, is having it vertical is critical. I highly recommend getting this mounting and leveling fixture. It comes with a bubble level, has some mounting screws that allows you to attach it to different brackets, and also some screws to make sure the sensor is secure. Just one thing I wanted to mention, especially for users who have been using our LIA and LIBs for a long time, I just wanted to state that this mounting and leveling fixture, wasn't designed with this bracket in mind. So there are ways to make them work, but you will just need to get a different screw that you can mount, that you can use this mounting hole. We'll try to figure out if there are ways we can provide those screws to make it easier for our users, but something that I thought would be good to mention before it causes any confusion. So, all right, so a little bit more about the spec. Again, the temperature and relative humidity spec, pretty standard to generally what we do. So temperature is at 0.2 degrees C, relative humidity plus minus 2.5%. The range is for PAR is from 0 to 3,000 micromoles per meter square per second, and about plus minus 5% typical. And I'll touch on the accuracy part. When it comes to the memory, so you'll get a minimum of 35,000 sets. And by that, what I mean, depending on the number of channels you have enabled, let's say if you have all channels enabled, you'll have a minimum of 35,000 data sets. And if you disable half of them, then you'll double it up. but I think it's a max of about 200,000 data set that you'll get. So a little bit more about the sensor itself. They come factory calibrated, plus minus 5% traceable to NIST. Sensitivity piece, all these sensors, actually their output is a pretty low current output, typically from 5 microamp to 10 microamp per 1000 micromole per second per meter square. But I'll touch on that, or why it's critical and why I'm speaking of that when it comes to calibrating sensors. Super fast response time, cosine corrected to 82 degree, as I mentioned earlier, and then a good range. You'll notice there is on the high range between the data logger and the sensor, there is a bit of a difference. So the data logger is rated up to 70C and the sensor itself at 65. So more often than not, both will be on the same environment, in the same environment. So I would just look at 65 degrees as the high end. So a little bit more about the derived parameters. So we'll be offering 4 derived parameters, one being DLI or daily light integral, which is a measure of the amount of light received in a single day in a particular area. In the case of this sensor, it's essentially the number of moles of PAR photons received during a single day in a square meter. I guess that's probably the right definition for it. Now, although DLI is the conventional metric that's reported in most systems, it represents a cumulative snapshot at the end of the day. So essentially, we'll measure and aggregate the light level that are being logged all the way to midnight, and we take a snapshot. But what ends up happening is that, throughout the day, you are not getting updated values. And we believe that delivering updated accumulated PAR in real time, depending on the applications, can enable users to be more responsive and to make better decisions, especially during the photo period. And that's why we've added this additional layer. It's actually a separate channel that's going to give you that data set that we're referring to as accumulated PAR. So essentially, depending on how you have so it starts at midnight, and depending on how you have your device set up, let's say if you're logging every 10 minutes or every 15 minutes, as it logs that new value, it aggregates it and updates the accumulated PAR value. So DLI will give you a historical perspective from the previous day, and the accumulated PAR throughout the day will give you a few newer updates. So that running sum will start at midnight up to that latest log value again. So that running light integral will keep running all the way to midnight, and will log that final data point, which ultimately becomes that DLI. So I guess another way of saying this is that DLI, in the case of growing applications, tells you how much light your crops received the previous day. And by reporting accumulated PAR throughout the day, we hope that we can allow our users to adjust in the moment and not after the fact, depending on the criticality of the applications. And then we probably will provide VPD and dew point. Again, VPD is something that we haven't offered in our previous Temp RH loggers, and that's been a constant request. So super happy to address that for our users. I won't go too deep. I guess I'll say when it comes to the math behind how we get to DLI and accumulated PAR. But again, it is calculated from the log PAR value. I'm grossly oversimplifying it here, but there is great resources on our website on LI-COR.com. If you go into our support page and you search for DLI, you'll get a lot of resources that you can go through. But ultimately, we plot the data as a function of time, and essentially the DLI is this area under the curve. Again, it is an integral equation, but there are ways to simplify that math such that, again, we can calculate that area under the graph, essentially by calculating the area of these small rectangles. But how we log the par values. So because of the nature of light, it is highly recommended to average values over the logging interval. So how we are logging par is essentially every 15 seconds, we'll take a sample over that logging interval and average that out. Let's say if your logging interval is once a minute, which is pretty typical on how HOBO products are used, we'll take 4 data points and average that out. If for a specific reason a user wants to log at a rate that's faster than a minute, at that point you will only be taking instantaneous measurement and providing that value. Right. Additional note or comment I wanted to make on DLI accumulated par. So that par accumulation will continue across deployment and only resets at midnight. And what I mean by that is, let's say if you have a deployment and during the middle of the day, you access that data and you read out that data, it will not reset that accumulated value. So essentially, if you read it out, you get that data up to that point, but it's going to keep logging, right? So at the end of the day, that previous data will be a part of that accumulated par value. There is a corner case where that's not, where that won't happen, and that's a scenario where you stop the logger, you read out that data, and then you completely disconnect from the device. If there's no interaction with that device for over an hour, it goes into this state we refer to as storage mode, which it goes into slower power state, or you can call it sleep mode. So it essentially kind of loses its memory, for lack of a better word. So that's how we are able to save power. That's how we ship products. That's why you can keep this product on the shelf for a month before you use them, and you don't use any power. When it enters that state, then that value will reset. But that the unit will not enter that state if you stop the logger, you read it out, but you press the button or you have any interaction with the device, either pushing the button, which will wake it up, or connecting to the device with the app, which will also keep it active. So long, as long as there is any type of interaction with the device, it's not gonna go into this mode. But if you stop it again, read it out, it's almost like as you are kind of putting this device away for a while. So we go into this state so that we can make sure that we save power. All right, just one question that I wanted to address here that came through. So the HOBOware Pro has assistant for growing days. Does this unit do that as well? So this unit will not be providing growing degree days. So we will only be providing DLI. Yeah, so we made based on our user interviews, DLI was what the most requested feature. So that's why we provided it. But I'll take a note when it comes to growing degree days, and if that's something that's needed, we will definitely evaluate what it will take to add it to this product. All right. So some additional capabilities that I wanted to share. One of them I alluded to earlier a little bit is around the uniqueness of each sensor and the sensitivity that comes with it. So this is not applicable for new loggers. This is, let's say you have your device and you've used it for a couple of years, right? Again, as I mentioned earlier, each sensor is unique. It has a sensitivity that's defined by this calibration constant. So when we manufacture this product, we take that calibration constant and we burn it, for lack of a better word, into the data logger. And that's what makes sure that we convert that electrical signal accurately so we can make accurate measurement. We highly recommend getting these sensors recalibrated again, just due to the nature of how the sensor work, and once that sensor gets recalibrated, again, it will generate a new calibration constant, and will, if it's at the factory, we will again burn, quote unquote, that value into the data logger. That said, we do realize that it is not always possible for users to be able to send back their loggers to get calibrated. So to simplify that recalibration process, we do offer quantum heads. So essentially, the sensor head can be disassembled and removed from the base and the cable assembly. So you could send out just the sensor head to be recalibrated, and we can send it back and then you can enter that calibration constant. Or to not stop your deployment, we actually offer new quantum sensor head, which you can purchase separately. And if that's the case, again, you need to enter that new calibration constant, and we've made sure that it is a feature that's available right on the app, and you don't have to use any additional software. And I'll quickly show how that works. So I think that is a great way of potentially eliminating the cost and hassle of sending the entire unit back to the factory. So there, if not interrupting your deployment is critical, 2 years down the line, what I would recommend is actually just getting one of these new sensor head from us. And I just wanted to clarify that, the cable, this base and cable assembly, it is hardwired to the logger. So if for whatever reason you actually needed to replace the cable itself, the base and cable assembly, you would have to return the unit to the factory. So again, nothing you would have to worry about for brand new products, but figured I'd mention it, and this is something you would be needing down the line. We also did provide an alternate solution that we refer to as this user calibration factor. So based on our user interviews with a lot of our light sensor, what we've learned is that cost can be an issue. And generally what some of our users will do is they use, let's say, a lot of our sensors, and they don't have to be these light sensors. It can be, if you're familiar with our UAs or our MX2308 products. So they'll use the products for a couple of years, and when it's time to get them recalibrated, some users will just purchase a brand new sensor or a high-end sensor that they can use as a reference sensor. So they deploy them in the same environment, do some level of analysis, and come up with a correction factor, because the nature of electronics over time, or wear and tear, sensors may drift a little bit. So generally what our users would do, once they have that calibration factor, then they'll deploy their old units, and once they access that data afterwards, they'll apply this they do some data post-processing and apply that factor. So we thought it would be great to help make the life of our users a bit easier by actually eliminating that last step. So it is still on the users to let's say in this case, just for a presentation here, you have a brand new device, you have some of your older one, you get them into the field, deploy them in the right environment, come up with your correction factor. Likely will be somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5. Hopefully it should never go that high or that low. Probably would be 0.9, somewhere between 0.9 and 1.1. You get that factor, then you enter it into the device before you deploy them. And the subtle difference there is as you're getting updated data, you're actually getting the right data that doesn't require any type of post-processing. So essentially, we just hope that for users where they're not in a position where they can either get new sensor head or get their sensors recalibrated, this will offer them a decent option to move forward. With that, I figured I'll pull up HOBO Connect, especially for folks who may have not ever used it, just to quickly show an example. So I only have a couple of devices here. I have our regular MX2308, Temp RH loggers, and the new MX2308. So as soon as it's powered, it will start to broadcast Temp RH and PAR data. And if you access the device, you will start to see your temperature, relative humidity, PAR, accumulated PAR, VPD, DLI, and dew point. So again, this DLI value is yesterday's. That was what was logged at midnight. This PAR value, you'll see it will update frequently. I think every 1.285 seconds. And this accumulated PAR is actually the data that was logged. That's the running sum up to the last logged value. So I have this one logging every minute. You can see it just updated a second ago. So this will update at the logging interval. So the user calibration factor that I touched on, let's imagine you 2 years down the line and you want to use this product. For the user calibration factor, this is where by default is 1.1. And if you wanted to change it, you can go to 1.1 and then you select it and it will save it. So essentially from this point on, every measurement that's made, this 1.1 will be applied to it. And I can go back, since this is a brand new device, I'll just kind of reset it to that 1.1 value. In a case where you get a new sensor head, right now this is the next step. So this is the LI-COR calibration constant. So for every new sensor, it comes with a calibration certificate, or even if you don't have that certificate on hand, each sensor has a serial number. If you go to LI-COR.com, you go to our support page, you enter that serial number, you can have electronic access to that sensor, that information. So that constant again will be somewhere between 5 and 10 microamps per 1000 micromoles per second per meter square. So you will enter that value, let's call it 5.5. You enter that serial number so you can have it for reference, because that information will be logging, and you can select the date. So this will be a nice way to, number one, have reference, so that a couple years down the line, you know exactly when this calibration date started, you have that information on hand, and it's always going to be part of your exported data, and you have that. So again, great way of being able to enter that information without having to send the device back or have to use any type of third-party software. So to configure a device, pretty straightforward, like a lot of our devices. So each of those parameters represent a channel, right? Again, you have the choice to select which parameters you want to log. But let's say if you select VPD, which is derived from temperature and RH, then RH and temp will be enabled by default. But let's say if you didn't need the temperature, relative humidity, dew point, and VPD information, but you only cared about PAR, then by disabling the other channels, that'll just give you more memory. You can set up thresholds for temp RH, PAR, and accumulated PAR. For PAR, you can set a low and high, same for temp and RH. And you can, depending on the type of how you want to set it up, either cumulative samples or consecutive samples. But for accumulated PAR, you only have a high, which makes sense, right? Because it's a running integral. Having a low alarm wouldn't make sense, but you can set a high thresholds, right? Again, you don't have to wait until midnight to get a snapshot, depending on the stages of the work you're doing. Maybe there's only a certain level of light intensity you may want to expose your crops to, and doing so will allow you to get an alarm notification. And you can get the alarm notification if you add a gateway to this product. It's an optional path, but we have a gateway It is rated for indoor type application, but there are housings you can put around it to make it a little bit more environmental friendly in the case of greenhouse application and things of that nature. All right. Cool. All right. So I just wanted to kind of just share some closing thoughts. I want to be mindful of the time here. So, again, as I was saying earlier, this it is a PAR logger, but it's truly that provides 7 parameters that are super important, right? Temperature, humidity, and PAR form the foundation of plant growth in a lot of application. Again, VPD dew point provide some climate insight, and with DLI and PAR, is something you link to lighting to plant productivity. So it is, again, an all-in-one compact Bluetooth data logger. Again, depending on your type of application, the temperature channel can be the temperature channel, for example, right? What it can tell you, the ambient heat conditions that may influence your plant metabolism, right? So there, maybe you can set a threshold and say that, if it gets above 28 degrees C, I want to get a notification so that you can take action, either use a shade cloth or apply misting, whatever the case may be. In the case of PAR, right, it tells you the light intensity that's usable for photosynthesis. Maybe having the PAR level be below 300 may not be ideal for your type of crops. Again, setting up that low threshold could be useful. And again, you have accumulated PAR that keep giving you that updated information throughout the day. Again, very, very, very easy and powerful product to use. Again, compact, Bluetooth enabled, and right out of the box, it is ready to go. All you need is to get our free HOBO Connect app, and you are all set to go. All right, so I'll start looking at questions just to make sure I'll cover them. So one question that I have here is, can these loggers be employed in outdoor environment? Absolutely. So these are meant to be used outdoor. So it's IP67. So it is weatherproof. It just cannot be submerged in water. But yeah, so that would work. How do we use the logger with the HOBO Shield? So it is compatible with one of our HOBO Shield. It's the RSA. So it is compatible. So it's the same solar radiation shield that you use with the MX2308 or the MX2308. Yeah, you will have to, keep in mind the cable when you're assembling the logger. So you will have to disassemble the plates, but you can route that cable. Another question that I have here is, does this work with the MX Gateway? Yes. So it is compatible with MX Gateway, and you can upload the data to the cloud. 2 ways of uploading the data to the cloud. You can either do it via the gateway or via HOBO Connect. So via HOBO Connect as well, we have the option that every data you upload with the app can be pushed to the cloud. Now there are fees associated with each, and it's per device. So for each device, it would cost you $25 to be able to push the data to a cloud for a year. Yep. Great question. All right, I'm seeing additional questions here, but those I believe I answered throughout the presentation, so I wouldn't want to repeat those. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Again, these products are now available. They're available in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and all additional countries where CE and FCC mark are accepted. We are in the process of accelerating regulatory compliance just to make sure that it is aligned with the rest of our MX2300 series. So soon here we'll start working on getting them certified in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. We're in the final stages here. We are ramping up. We already have a lot of orders queued up, and those will start shipping within 2 weeks. So for the orders that were placed already, you should have received a confirmation date, and we are on track to deliver those products on time. So these, even though it's a new product, it will fall under our standard lead time. All right, so maybe final comments. Again, please, you can always go to onset.com to get any information you need about this product and our other product. And also, I'll nudge you to get on LI-COR.com. There's a wealth of information, especially around the science around light sensing. So a lot of great resources that you can use and to help you apply with your work. And we do realize we have a lot of international customers. So if you're in Asia, please reach out to Caroline. And if you are in South America, reach out to Caesar. And if you are in Europe and Africa, in the Middle East, please reach out to Ines. They can help answer any question you may have. Again, thanks very much for attending. And we appreciate you choosing to spend these past 40 minutes or so with us. Your presence means a lot, and we truly appreciate it. Take care and be well. Thank you.